Welcome to a special edition of the Darden Admissions Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with Angie Griffith. Angie is a member of the Military Educational Benefits team at the University of Virginia, and she works closely with Darden students who are using military educational benefits to pay for the program. I recently connected with Angie to talk more about her background, her role, and how she supports students here at Darden, what she really enjoys about working with military students, and so much more. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. And as always, if this conversation is helpful for you, please like this episode and subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an update. And remember, you can always check the episode description for links to Darden blogs, social channels, and more. And now, without further ado, here is my conversation with Angie Griffith. Angie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's great to talk with you. How's everything? How are you doing?
It's going great. Life is great. Loving being a grandmother. So, yeah. It's great.
Are you loving being a grandmother in 101 degree heat that we're experiencing right now?
Well, the heat, no, but being a grandmother, yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking some time to come on the podcast. It's always great to catch up with you. It's fun having you in Roslyn just a couple of weeks ago and seeing you in person.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. I love going up there. So,
all right. Well, before we get too far into our conversation, tell us a little bit more about who you are, and your background.
So my name is Angie, as you said. I am a military I come from a military family. So my dad was in the Army for 23 years, between the Army and the Navy, 3-time Vietnam vet. So, and then I married a Army soldier as well. So my husband, Dan, was in the Army for 20 years. And he retired out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and moved back to Charlottesville, Virginia. And we've been in Charlottesville for 17 years now.
Wow. With Charlottesville, had you spent time in Charlottesville before, or, what led you to Charlottesville specifically?
I've always wanted to come visit here because he was part of the JAG Corps, and he was always here at least once a year for training and everything. And he would always send me pictures of the trees. And at the time we were living in Korea, and I'm like, I just want to go visit. That's all I want to do is just go visit because it's beautiful there with the mountains and everything. And then we were stationed here at the JAG school, and he was the senior court reporter for less than 2 years before he deployed to the Middle East. And then he couldn't get back here. So that's how he ended up in Fort Belvoir.
All right. And now you work at the university supporting military students.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about your current role.
So my current role is I'm name is I'm Darden Military Benefits and Veteran Affairs Coordinator. In short, I'm Darden's Military Benefits Coordinator. So I just like to shorten it because it's easier. So I work in the office of the University Registrar. That's where I'm housed, but I service only Darden students. That's executive, part-time, residential. I make sure that their enrollment is certified to the VA, making sure they get their housing allowance and book stipends, and then certifying their tuition and fees later on into the quarter or semester to get their tuition and fees paid for them.
And what attracted you to this role?
Giving back to the military. So my background being a military family, I've always wanted to give back to the military community, the veterans and their families, because it's not just the veterans who serve, it's their families as well. And they have, when the service member moves, the family moves with them, and the spouses and the children learn how to pack really well. And they're just a resilient group of people where they understand change. They understand logistics. They understand, rules and regulations, basically. So it's a joy to work with them and get to know who they are and where they are coming from, where they've been. So, and just a little bit to know about their families as well.
How long have you been in this role?
A little over 3 years now. So, yeah,
I'm sure
not long enough.
I'm sure you've met with all kinds of students during that time. I mean, we've got, as you mentioned, we got three MBA programs, full-time MBA, which is, of course, the residential program down in Charlottesville. We have the part-time MBA, which is the evening weeknight program based up in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and an executive MBA, which is 21 months in duration, kind of structured around once a month weekend residencies in the DC metro area with online class a couple nights per week. But all kind of different student populations, kind of different career stages, life stages, oftentimes, depending on which program you're talking about. And so I'm sure that's been interesting.
It's been great. I've been able to meet a lot of great people in this role, students, family members. I mean, the nine yards. Get to see pictures of their pets, their children when they have a new baby. That's my joys when I get to see the new babies. So,
Well, of course, military service members are an important part of our communities generally
right,
across these MBA programs. We have
correct.
I always like to mention to folks that we have the Darden Military Association on the full-time MBA side. We also have for part-time MBA and executive MBA students, we have the Darden Military Association professional formats for those students who want to connect with students who have that military service background. So how do you support students, Angie? Obviously, you got a very long title. You're working with them on their military benefits. What does that actually look like?
Well, first it's like helping guide them because there's a lot of nuances in using their military benefits. So I like to catch them um, thankful to you and the other, even with the residential MBA, pointing students, military affiliated students, our way because there's a team of three of us, pointing them our way so then that way we can help them, guide them to get their all their paperwork in. They have to submit what we call a military education benefits request form, or what we also, in short, a MEBR. Um, and every student needs to have one of those every semester in order for us to certify their enrollment to the VA. So just getting their documents in, communicating with them, helping them, as they're going along, helping them, are they meeting their full-time requirements for the VA? And how many class can they drop a class? Can they afford to drop a class to still get their full MHA? It's a whole lot of almost kind of like advising as well. We do a lot of advising with the students with their military education benefits, so then that way they can get their maximum benefits for monthly housing allowance.
Yeah, you mentioned the MHA, which of course stands for monthly housing allowance. There's all kinds of
Correct.
acronyms. No surprise to people who've been in the military, but all kinds of
Right.
acronyms to keep straight. I want to talk a little bit about the military benefits process because undoubtedly we have some listeners who may be just starting and thinking about pursuing an MBA and may have military benefits, or they're not sure how much percentage eligibility they might have. What do you think students should do as they kind of approach the application process, and maybe they have military benefits, but they're not sure? Are there some things that they can do just even as they get organized, thinking about an MBA program or graduate school?
Right. That's a great question. They should start off with the Veterans Administration, the VA, and apply for their certificate of eligibility, their COE, and that would tell them how many months that they have. Especially if they didn't serve for a long time, they're going to have a less eligibility rating. So some can go all the way down to 40% eligibility. I haven't seen that too often. But I have seen students who are at 50% and 60%. It all depends on how long they've served in the military or their sponsor has served. Um, from there, once they have the application, once they are going through the application process, to always feel free to reach out to us at our Veterans Benefits email. I'm always happy to help them, guide them of whatever they need. The first thing is to have that COE dated no earlier than March 1st of the year that they're planning on attending.
Yeah, I think getting that document, understanding your eligibility, it
Hmm.
seems important for
It's
students
very important.
because they really don't know about sort of financially what they
Right.
might be able to do. And so, if you can put that in place before going into the application process, I think that can be really helpful for students.
It is very helpful. I also work closely with the Darden Financial Aid team as well. So then that way, there are times that if we can adjust our schedules together, we'll hop on a call together with a potential student or an incoming student. So then that way, they're getting both of us at the same time, and they're getting all their questions answered. Um, where the financial aid office, they can answer a lot of questions about the military benefits, to where myself, I cannot answer questions about financial aid. We don't work with loans and we don't work with scholarships and stuff like that. I do know a little bit about them, but I always refer them back to the financial aid office, and we work closely together with that.
Yeah, when we see you, invariably there's also a member of the financial aid team around.
Right.
Y'all work very closely together. So we talked a little bit about maybe what students can do as they kind of get organized to apply. But let's say someone um, has applied, been admitted, they decide to accept their offer, they're getting ready to start school. What are some things that you would encourage them to think about, or that would be helpful for them to know if they're planning to use military benefits to pay for the program?
First off, like I said before, is get your COE, and then go into our website and submit the MEBR, the Military Education Benefits Request Form. We say no earlier than July 1st, but we start taking them earlier. I have students that have been submitting them since beginning of June that are coming in, and that's okay. We don't log them, we don't update our records yet, but at least they have them. That way, if they're missing anything, I can always reach back out to them and communicate with them that way and get any additional information that I need.
One of the things that I've been struck by in our conversations, though, is, that's really kind of step one in the process. But
Right.
as students go through the program, they have to continue to submit paperwork.
Correct.
I mean, that sometimes catches students off guard. They kind of
It
forget
does.
that they have to do that. And then I'm sure you're following up to say, hey, a reminder. But ideally, you wouldn't have to send a reminder to the student.
Right. Well, it's just common practice for our team to send out reminders to all military affiliated students across UVA. I send out a total of 3 reminders um, to students every semester before the beginning of the semester. So towards the end of the fall semester, I'll be sending out a reminder for a J term and spring as well. Um, so then that way they can get it for the executive and part-time programs. I also put it in Canva as well. I also copy the financial aid offices, the financial aid team as well. So then that way they're aware that, if any students are having questions about it, they know that the reminders have gone out. Once I send out 3 reminders, we are only allowed to send out 3 reminders. If I still don't have a student's MEBR, I reach out to the financial aid office because they help me with that as well at the end. Because I don't send any emails to the Darden emails, I always send them to the virginia.edu emails. So the students' Darden emails, I don't have that access. So all the emails coming from my office will go straight to their Virginia email address.
Which is generally true about any UVA related
Right.
correspondence. One of the tricky things for incoming students, and we talk about this in a lot of our webinars for students prior to matriculation, is that you have 2 email addresses as a Darden student. You have your Darden
Mhm.
email, but you also have a UVA email. All UVA students are issued a UVA email. We actually have a checklist item for incoming students where we ask students to confirm that they set up forwarding from the UVA email to their Darden email, because important communications will come from the university, from your office, Angie, to that UVA email. If people are not looking at it, they're missing those updates. And it's easy to forget. You get really busy in an MBA program, you got a lot going on. It's really easy to overlook. So save yourself that step, set up that email forwarding. But I'm so glad you mentioned that, because it's helpful just even for people who are doing their research now, learning about the schools, to keep in mind that when you're matriculating at Darden, you're actually matriculating at 2 schools. And there's a little bit of system complexity that's created by that fact. And the emails are a good example of one of probably the things that's probably most important for students to keep in mind.
That is correct. You'd be surprised. I receive a lot of emails. Well, I didn't receive this email. Like, check your Virginia email. It's there.
Yeah. So people probably hear it, but they don't necessarily process
Right.
that fully as they're coming in. So we talked about how frequently do people have to provide additional paperwork. You mentioned having to provide another MEBR. How frequently does that happen as people go through the program?
Right. Only once a semester.
Mhm.
So one for the fall, one for the spring. If they take a J term, one for the J term. So a lot of students, especially the executive students, they get confused where they think the J term is with the spring semester, which J term is completely separate from the J term from the spring semester. So they would need one. for J term in spring. And then if they take a summer course, like the executive and the part-time students, you would need one for the summer as well. Although we certify by the quarter, we only need it for the full semester.
Yeah, a little inside baseball there. So for those of you who are just learning about Darden, you'll take classes in 2-month quarters. So every couple of months you'll get new classes. 2 quarters equals a semester, generally speaking. So each semester is about 4 months long. For our working professional students, they are continuously in school. There's no extended breaks. For example, full-time MBA students will have a summer off between their first and second year. But if you're an executive MBA or part-time MBA student, you're continuously in school from the time you start to the time you graduate. And so you're going to get used to having a fall, a spring, and a summer semester. Angie mentioned a January term. That is a short 10-day term that happens between the fall and spring semester. In the first year of the Executive MBA, part-time MBA program, students are generally taking a required credit-bearing career-focused course called the Professional Advancement course. But in subsequent years, so in the second year of the Executive MBA program or part-time MBA program, or maybe the third year of the part-time MBA program, students have an opportunity to take an elective during that short January term. And so it's easy, I guess, to overlook that you have to provide that MEBR again. And again, that's for those of you who are trying to keep up with all these acronyms. That's the Military Education Benefits Request Form. Well, Angie, what else would you want people to know, people who are planning to use their military benefits to pay for the program, what else would you want them to know? Kind of important tips, things that have come up in your interactions with students.
Primarily just staying on top of their MEBRs, staying on top of if they've used benefits before, staying on top of how much time they have left, because I do see quite a few students who have run out of benefits, or what we would call exhaust benefits. And when that happens, if they still have a full semester, they need to look at alternative ways to pay for it. Any questions? I mean, we don't, we don't call any question is a good question. Every question is a good question. So we don't consider any question a stupid question, because what you don't know is you don't know. So always feel free to email us at our Veterans Benefits. We also, on our website, we do have links to where you can do virtual appointments as well. And I'll be more than happy to meet with them. So yeah, we're an open book when it comes to benefits and how to use them. So we're always available.
Yeah, I want to pick up on something you just shared there. So it's not just percentage eligibility; it's also the total number of months that you have.
Correct.
Is that information you would get from the VA when you go through that eligibility process and sort of figuring
Yes,
out what you're actually eligible for?
that is correct. Most service members have 36 months of benefits. There is a new legislation out there now. It's called the Rudisill Act that has been giving veterans an additional year, which we have seen is about additional 9 months because the academic year is 9 months and not 12 months. So we've seen veterans getting additional time as that as well. If a student is a family member and the benefits have been transferred over to them, they may have less than 36 months because they're dividing it out between, children or spouse or whatever the case may be. If they have used benefits already, it will say on their COE how much benefits they have left. Always remember, like you said earlier, Brett, is that for the executive program, it takes 21 months. So as long as, like, for example, if they're in the executive program, if they have 21 months, they're good to go, 21 months or more. So anything less than 21 months, they need to keep an eye out on that as well.
Yeah, and just as we're talking about months to completion, our part-time MBA program standard pacing is 33 months, although students can complete the program in 28 to 48 months. UVA rule requires you to finish at the end of a semester. So we mentioned
Correct.
before, a semester is essentially 4 months. So 28 months is the 7-semester plan. 33 months is the 8-semester plan. 36
Right.
months would be the 9-semester plan. So anything else that you'd want people to be thinking about as they approach an MBA program, or as they just kind of think about getting organized or getting started on this process?
Not that I can think of, no. I just say have fun with it.
Well, Angie, what are you looking forward to in the months ahead? What are you excited about?
Seeing my children, um, because I have a child that lives in Seattle with his wife, and they're coming home at the end of July. And then next weekend, I'm going out to Kentucky to see my grandchildren. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm a big
And
family person, and students will learn as they talk with me and I get to know them. I love talking about my family. So my kids are grown. So now I'm adding in more.
that's right. That's right. One last question for you, and I'm just curious. Obviously, you mentioned about your own personal military, connection, and your husband being in the military, your father being in the military, and sort of being in a military family. But working with MBA students, with Darden students, with a military service background, what is it that you really enjoy about working with Darden students specifically?
Um, Learning where they've been stationed at. I love hearing about their stories of where they've been stationed at. Have they served in the Middle East, with the veterans especially? Um, where, if they're a military family, if they grew up in the military, where were they born? Because a lot of times in the military, as you know, in the military, they can be born in the United States or they can be born in another country. Like my boys were born in Germany. So, and it's great to hear where people have come from, where their families are coming from, what they like to do on their spare time. Because as as we all know, the MBA is very intense and very time consuming. So whenever they can get that time to spend with their families, that quality time, I love hearing about it when they go on hikes and stuff like that. So I just love getting to know them as a person, not just as a student or as a veteran as well.
Well, Angie, thank you for all that you're doing to support our students, and thanks for
You're
coming on the
welcome.
podcast to talk a little bit more about this process. I find that a lot of our incoming students don't know a ton about the military benefits
Mhm.
process and are learning like the pretty steep learning curve. They know they have this benefit, they'd like to
Yes.
use it, but they don't know too much about the ins and outs.
Right. And there's benefits out there that a lot of students don't know, like the VRNE, the Chapter 31. For disabled students, it's a long process, but I like to refer students to the Veteran Readiness and Education Program, which is the Chapter 31, when they're running out of benefits. And if they have like a long length of time left of their program, um, referring them to that to see if they can apply, qualify for that because it's, as we call, free money. So if they can, even though it's a long process, it's a tedious process. I still like to have students at least try if they can.
Well, Angie, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And it's great to see you
It's been my pleasure.
and exciting for all your news, your new
Thank you.
grandchild, and getting to spend some time with your family in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
And that was my conversation with Angie Griffith, a member of the Military Educational Benefits team here at the University of Virginia. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at Darden, that's DARDEN, @virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.